The rescue plan may be the trap. Europe says tariffs on Chinese electric cars will save factories, protect jobs, and defend its proudest industrial giants. But the wall meant to stop BYD may actually lock Volkswagen, BMW, and Mercedes-Benz inside a shrinking past. In 2025, Europe's auto industry supported about 13.8 million workers, with Germany alone depending on more than 700,000 car jobs. Then, the German auto sector lost over 51,000 jobs in 1 year, roughly 7% of its workforce. At the same time, China's EV makers kept getting cheaper, faster, and smarter. The terrifying question is not whether German cars can survive Chinese competition. It is whether the car war is secretly a data war, and the old champions already missed the ambush. That is the trap. For decades, German car makers did not just sell vehicles, they sold authority. Volkswagen, Mercedes-Benz, and BMW became symbols of engineering discipline, luxury, safety, and status. That reputation created enormous global pricing power, because buyers were not just paying for metal and leather, they were paying for trust. But reputations do not stop price shocks forever. Then came the BYD Dolphin. It was small, practical, plug-in hybrid, and aimed directly at everyday buyers who wanted affordable modern transport. In several European markets, it appeared around $26,000 to $28,000, placing pressure exactly where legacy brands were weakest. That price was brutal. In 2024, the European Union responded with tariffs on Chinese electric vehicles, ranging from 17% to 38%. On paper, this looked like defense. Protect the factories, protect the workers, protect the brands that helped build Europe's industrial identity. But Germany's center-left government opposed the move, fearing retaliation against its own automakers. So why were the companies being protected, warning regulators to stop protecting them? The answer begins with dependence. German automakers do not just compete with China, they depend on it. For years, Volkswagen, BMW, and Mercedes-Benz have traditionally generated more than 30% of their profits from the Chinese market. Among wealthy buyers, Western brands still carry prestige, and that prestige has been extremely profitable. That creates a strange hostage situation. If Europe punishes Chinese EVs too harshly, China can punish European automakers where it hurts most. The companies are rivals in one showroom, but tied together through factories, suppliers, dealers, and customers. The battlefield is also the revenue stream. Profit can become a leash. Mercedes-Benz CEO Ola Källenius understands this better than almost anyone. After taking charge, he pushed a major electric transition and helped drive a $12 billion investment into battery-powered vehicles. Yet he has not treated China simply as an enemy. In 2024, he joined an official German state visit to China, signaling openness to cooperation on future car projects. Volkswagen and BMW have also resisted tariffs. Their boards have repeatedly sent trade envoys to China, not because of idealism, but because the balance sheet demands it. The German auto industry needs access to China's consumers, even while Chinese automakers attack its own markets. This is the contradiction. Europe wants to block the threat. Germany wants to keep selling to it, and the companies at the center of the crisis know something politicians sometimes ignore. Tariffs may slow imports, but they cannot erase the cost advantage behind those imports. UBS Investment Bank examined BYD after its expansion accelerated, and the findings explained why legacy automakers looked exposed. By 2023, Chinese electric vehicles had roughly a 25% cost advantage over many traditional competitors. That is not a discount. That is a structural weapon. Many new challengers sell at a loss to win attention. They burn cash, flood the market, and hope customers stay when prices rise. But BYD's advantage is not built only on cheap pricing. It comes from controlling the machinery underneath the price. Most global automakers assemble cars from vast supplier networks. Steel, chips, battery systems, dashboard electronics, and software components often cross borders before the finished vehicle reaches a customer. For many car companies, Only about 30% of parts are made internally. That means every delay, freight cost, tariff, and supplier margin gets baked into the final price. BYD plays another game. It produces roughly 75% of its components in-house. That gives it tighter control over cost, speed, design, and supply. Instead of buying the set from someone else, BYD owns much of the factory making the pieces. The result is a manufacturing system that can move faster and pass savings directly to buyers. This is the part tariffs struggle to touch. A tariff can raise the final price at the border. It cannot easily copy vertical integration. It cannot instantly rebuild supplier control. It cannot make an old production model young again. Those savings feed the next attack. In 2023, BYD increased research and development spending by 97%. That helped finance cheaper, more export-ready models like the Dolphin, while BYD's stock price surged and stayed strong despite political pressure. But BYD is not only shipping cars into Europe. It wants to build inside Europe, and that is where the wall starts developing doors. The biggest obstacle is logistics, because transporting large vehicles across continents is expensive and slow. So BYD has looked for a shortcut through Europe's own industrial weakness. In 2026, reports emerged that BYD was in talks to buy underused manufacturing plants. But other European automakers had fallen into difficulty. Empty or struggling factories could become launchpads for Chinese production on European soil. That would change everything. If BYD assembles locally, tariffs lose some force, shipping costs fall, delivery speeds improve, the cars look less foreign to regulators and buyers, and the political story changes from invasion to investment. Then comes the more unsettling part. Dormant brands. Some companies have already rebadged Chinese vehicles under familiar European names. Italian firms such as DR Automobiles have used inactive names like Italia to sell cars tied to Chinese manufacturers less known in the West. These revived labels have earned a chilling nickname, zombie brands. A dead badge can hide living technology. That matters because Europe's old car companies still act as if the main battle is steel, batteries, and factory capacity. But the fastest-growing challengers are fighting on another layer. Software. That is where the gap becomes dangerous. Volkswagen's ID.4 is one of its best-known electric models, yet it has been criticized for software complexity and slow fixes. Drivers have reported glitches that take months to patch, and some repairs require dealership visits. That experience feels outdated in a world where phones update overnight. Cars became computers.
Chinese EV makers understood that earlier. BYD, NIO, Xiaomi.
And others built vehicles more like connected devices than traditional cars, with screens added later. Battery management, driver assistance, entertainment, navigation, and updates were designed as one system. The vehicle is not just assembled, it is integrated. That difference becomes extreme at the premium end. The Xiaomi SU7 Max sedan can accelerate from 0 to 62 miles per hour, or 100 kilometers per hour, in just 2.78 seconds, using a dual-motor setup. That sounds like supercar territory. But the real shock is not acceleration. The car carries a 128-line LiDAR system, using pulsed lasers to map its surroundings in real time. It also has 11 high-definition cameras feeding dual NVIDIA Drive Orin chips. Together, those chips can process 508 trillion operations per second. That number is absurd. Each Xiaomi SU7 Max has more processing power than the guidance computers on 500 Tomahawk missiles combined. In practical terms, this is not merely a vehicle. It is a rolling sensor platform. This is the rise of the software-defined vehicle. In these machines, the hardware still matters, but the software increasingly becomes the product. Artificial intelligence can shape navigation, safety systems, battery efficiency, driver assistance, and future autonomous features. The factory becomes the last step in a much larger technology ecosystem. And once the car becomes software, the question changes. It is no longer only who can stamp metal fastest. It is who controls updates, data, maps, sensors, operating systems, and the intelligence layer that drivers touch every day. That is why regulators are alarmed. The concern is not only that Chinese EVs are cheap, it is that connected cars collect data everywhere they go. They can map streets, traffic patterns, infrastructure, and user behavior through telemetry systems that transmit GPS information, performance data, and digital diagnostics. Cybersecurity protections may block outside hackers, but the deeper question is who can access the data from inside the ecosystem. Under President Xi, state influence over strategic industries has tightened, leaving global observers uneasy about corporate independence. The issue is not just a cheaper car in a European driveway. It is a moving node and an information network. The road may be watched. Every connected EV becomes part of that network. If millions of vehicles spread across European roads, the issue becomes larger than market share. It becomes control over mobility data, infrastructure awareness, and future software standards. So the tariff fight is not really about a $28,000 compact car. It is about who owns the operating system of transportation. If China dominates the affordable EV layer, Western automakers may be reduced to brand shells, assembly sites, or luxury niches. That is not competition. That is displacement. Europe is using a 20th century tool against a 21st century threat. Tariffs can raise prices, slow imports, and buy time. But they cannot rebuild lost software culture. They cannot recreate supply chain control. They cannot reverse decades of outsourcing. Time is useful only if it is used to change. Worse, tariffs may accelerate the very outcome they were meant to prevent. If legacy automakers lose volume, weaker factories become cheaper targets. If Chinese companies build locally, the wall develops doors. If old brands are revived as zombie brands, customers may not even realize what technology sits underneath the badge. The badge is no shield. German carmakers are not falling behind because they forgot how to build cars. They are falling behind because the car itself changed. It became a battery, a software platform, a sensor network, and a data machine. And once that happens, the old advantages stop being enough. A century of engineering pride can still matter. Luxury can still matter. Brand trust can still matter. But none of it matters the same way when the car is updated like a phone, mapped like a drone, and priced like a weapon. The winner of this war may not be the company that sells the most vehicles. It may be the one that owns the intelligence inside every road. That is why Europe's tariff wall feels so fragile. It is trying to stop a car. But the real import is a manufacturing system, a software stack, a data network, and a new definition of mobility. The future was not stolen from Europe at the border. It was rewritten inside the car. And the most dangerous import may not be the vehicle, but the intelligence driving it.